My name's Joey, and I'm joined this week by Dom.
Hello.
And by Neil.
Hello, Joey.
Paul fans, don't worry, he's not gone anywhere. He just didn't go to the game on Saturday because he was still abroad, and he'll be joining us back next week. Moments of the week, guys. Who wants to start off? Has anyone actually thought of one?
I got one.
Go on then, Neil, hit me.
It's a sad one. It's Tom Bayliss leaving.
Yeah.
Sad moment for many reasons. One, because he's good. Two, because a lot of people seem to forget that he was good. Slagged him off, which made me a bit angry. Also, I just think 2 million for him is just in the current market, and the fact that we got 1 million for Chaplin, you got this under 19 England international. It doesn't feel enough for me. But there were 3 reasons why it made me sad.
I know these economies of scale don't necessarily work, but I gather that we sold Maddison for about 2.5, didn't we, with add-ons and whatever, and then they sold him for 25. And this might come back to haunt me, but I do sort of feel like there's a high chance that Preston could sell Bayliss for more than 10 times 2 million. More down to how inflated the transfer market is, and the fact that players like Mopay are £20 million now, is that you just sort of think if they do well, he could go for quite a lot more than that potentially, couldn't he? But then possibly he could flounder. He might not make the step up to the championship.
Which, in that sense, kind of makes me think, basically, we take all the risk. Kind of. You have a little bit of money for all that development that you've done of this really good player, and if he becomes good, but it's sort of like, well, hang on, he's good now. He's got a good reputation. He's got all the credentials to suggest that he should be worth some money, and everybody else is selling their players for shitloads. And someone put in a bid for 4 million for even Tony today from Peterborough, and it's like, oh, we're talking about a 20-year-old kid who supposedly got a lot of good reputations, walked straight into their squad, number 7. They're obviously keen on him. And I just want more money from people. We always like 1 million, 2 million, doesn't seem enough.
He was, I gather, and again, this probably isn't that big an indicator, but wasn't he the only non-Premier League player to go to that Under-19s World Cup 2 years ago?
Yeah,
you kind of think there's...
No, he didn't go to the World Cup, actually, did he? I think he was just in the squad.
Was he, or a European Championship, or whatever it was, that summer
You're right,
tournament
yeah,
he
sorry.
went off to, yeah. But yeah, I just think the only positive about it is I think there's a level to which you wonder if he said, I'll give you 1 more year last summer, because I think he could have gone then. So I think we potentially got a year out of him that we might not have got. And secondly, he just seems like he's got his head screwed on. I wonder almost certainly if he had a higher profile option to go to. But Preston, as much as I hate to admit it, because I sort of thought he'd go somewhere a little bit better, are probably quite a good choice for him, aren't they? He'll probably play an awful lot. They're an up-and-coming side at the moment, aren't they? I think they've got quite a good bed of youth players, but Dom, you probably know more about them than me.
No, yeah, they're a very good club for giving young players a go, players from the lower leagues. They signed Jordan Story and Jaden Stockley off Exeter last season, straight from League Two. And within a year, they were throwing them into Championship games, making them regulars. So if you're looking for a club to go to from League One or Two into the Championship and you're a young player with decent amount of potential, Preston seems as good a choice as you could make.
Good stuff. Dom, your moment of the week?
So on a lighter note, I saw something absolutely magnificent on Saturday, which was in the 55th minute odd of the game. Frankati Dabo's laces became untied, and then I watched him for a full 10 minutes play a game of professional football with his laces untied.
Oh, really?
It's magnificent.
Why? Do him up, you idiot.
Do you think he just didn't notice?
I don't know whether it was sort of like he didn't want to take his head out of the game. So obviously, when you're playing at right back, I suppose you've got more to be concentrated on than apparently stopping for a second to tie your laces. But yeah, maybe that really stood out to me.
Maybe he was doing that thing, you know, when you're a kid and you're walking along and your laces are undone and someone points it out to you and you're like, oh no. Maybe he probably just didn't want to acknowledge it. I don't know.
I would have had strong anxiety watching that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just not. It's something that has to be corrected immediately, isn't it? It's not. You can't let that happen. I feel like I might have. Sorry, go on.
I just think I can hear the sound of those laces whacking against the boots.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'd have coped with that. I'm going to go for transfers that were and weren't, I suppose. So, Matt Godden.
Mm.
And, of course, the news breaking as we've gone on air, no Bright Enabakari.
He's got.
After all of the he was at the game last Saturday kind of chat,
Yeah.
God damn it!
and then he just goes to Wigan. You kind of go, oh right, I didn't even know they were a thing. I just thought
With Sterling.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I just thought he was coming here. I thought that was what had happened. Bayliss had gone, and then Robbins was like, well, it's fine. We've got Enabakari coming in. And we talked about last week, Enabakari might struggle to fit in because of Alan, Bayliss and Kelly. And then when Bayliss left, I thought, well, it's fine. We've got him coming in. And then, of course, and you just think, oh, right. So we've got to hope that Jordan Shipley doesn't keep shooting errantly as he did most notably in the second half on Saturday. But Dom, you're going to fill us in on all Shipley-related events and other such goings-on from Saturday, aren't you? You were there.
Yeah. So I suppose the first thing to talk about was simply being at St Andrews, what effect that had. It felt surprisingly normal, or I think Tom Furnival Adams put it slightly better. He said sort of felt like a decent away attendance, where there was quite a few people there, everyone sort of packed in. Certainly where I was sitting, I was absolutely rammed in there, and it was quite a sticky day. It was close to unpleasant actually, because they weren't allowing water bottles in either. So if anyone's planning to go there in future, that's something annoying about going there. But there was a sizable section of people who were intent on making an atmosphere, so it felt less funereal than Sixfields. Also, I wonder whether it helped also St Andrews being more of a football ground in the way Neil pointed out last week, which I was slightly sceptical of, because my concern was whether if you have 5,000 or 6,000 in there in what is close to a 30,000 seater stadium, whether that might feel cavernous, whether that might actually feel worse than Sixfields, just sort of everyone being sort of just left isolated in a massive stadium echoing around. But you certainly didn't get that, so that was a positive to come from the absolutely huge negative of playing not in Coventry. So yeah, that was sort of the main feel. Certainly for the first 20 minutes or so, there's quite a good atmosphere. So as people's minds turned more onto the game, it did die down a little bit, especially late on in the second half when we were holding on to things a little bit. It noticeably dipped in terms of atmosphere. As for the game itself, say the first 15, 20, 30 minutes were really pretty good, especially, the first 10 or 15 were, I think the two most notable instructions the team seemed to be playing to were knock it around well and, knock it around a bit and put yourself about a little. That was certainly noticeable. We were getting on the ball, we were passing around a little bit. Whether we were that dangerous with it, slightly doubtful. We didn't create too many really good chances over the course of the 90 minutes. There's a few chances from the edge of the area, a few situations where probably that final ball could have been a little bit better. What was most impressive, certainly about that first half performance, was Shipley and Westbrook in those sort of more advanced central midfield positions in that 4-3-3, which is a lot of work to do when you think about it, because you've got sort of three players sitting behind you with the defensive midfield, two centre-backs. Suppose you've got the two full-backs overlapping, but there's a lot of space between that defensive zone and the front three. So you've got a lot of work to do actually covering ground and sort of linking the team, which Shipley and Westbrook were doing. they weren't sort of just sort of sitting in midfield. They're pushing forward, they were pushing wide, they were linking up with players, and that was particularly impressive. Then without the ball, they were really getting involved with the pressing, and I was surprised with both of them because my suspicion, my sort of impression of Sheffield and Westbrook is they are slightly lightweight. Certainly, that was my impression of Westbrook, but they were getting into challenges, they were winning the ball back quite well. Best chance in the first half, has to be said, came from Southend trying to play out from the back, and their defender took a heavy touch, which sent Hirula clean through on goal. He takes it past the keeper, and from where I sat, it looks a pretty egregious moment not to put it in the back of the net. Looking back on the highlights, it looks like he didn't have much choice. Bakayoko looked like he was being marked, and the defender Lennon came across and blocked that quite well. Though I still think when you're a striker, you get clean through on goal like that. If you're a really top striker, you just don't give the defender the chance. But I think, given Hirula's benefit of the doubt, was a good piece of defending.
It did look
you
decent.
saw the highlights, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, I thought it was a decent block myself. I felt you fancy him to put it away, but it was kind of running. It was going a little bit away from goal. It was on his wrong foot, and the defender got across, and I think just all round it was. I won't hold it against him. Put it that way. I think it was from what I saw, it looked like it probably just decent defending, really.
Yeah. So later on in the first half, we did look to have a tied a bit. Don't know whether sort of the first day you're playing on adrenaline a little bit. Your fitness levels aren't quite at the top levels, but we've notably faded towards the end of the first half. Shipley gave the ball away a couple of times. Did seem from that point onwards his confidence dipped a little bit. He was supremely confident, has to be said, for the opening stages of the game. Sort of a few moments of skill, sort of turning defenders deep into his own half, picking out a few really, really excellent passes, but it just seemed like that a couple of poor passes get to him. The game just came really stop-start, which allowed Southend to get back into the game. They weren't really offering that much. They were trying to play out from the back, but it did seem quite apparent that they didn't quite have the players to be able to do that. But when the second half started, we sort of picked up where we sort of started the first half from, and that led to the opening goal, which was, if you see it back in its form, it's a really good passing move. First from right to left, and it goes to Mason, who was really impressive, has to be said. Just about everything he did, both defensively and going forward, he looks to have stepped up a little bit from last season. If that form is the evidence there, he took on his defender, created a little bit of an opening for Hirula to have a run across the goal, and then he picks out Westbrook, who produces a finish which I suppose can only really be described as arrowed from outside the box right into the bottom far corner from where he was. A lovely finish and a goal that he really deserved. I would say he was man of the match. No, Carl McFadden got it. But I thought most of what Westbrook did against Southend came off, both with and without the ball. And given that we haven't got Bright, given that Banks has gone, you'd hope there's a little bit of a platform now for him to get a run in the side.
Do you see him as a long term?
Sorry, go on, Neil.
No, that's my point. Just kind of, do you see him as a potential longer term fix, or is it still one that you probably you don't mind dropping him when you need to, but there's someone else who could potentially do a job?
I'd like to see what he can do with the running team. We've never really seen a great deal of him, so it's a bit hard to base opinion on what he might do, say given 10 or 15 games. But I really like what he does. I think he's a pretty composed player. He's someone who looks like he wants to make things happen, and he also has a very good set-piece delivery, which I found sort of eye-catching from him from his sort of appearances last season. So I think, given we've got a fair number of bodies in this squad, despite who we've lost and who we haven't signed, I wouldn't mind giving him a go. We've got Allen coming back, so if you've got Westbrook and Shipley competing for possibly one place in central midfield, that's it's sort of see what they can do until January and reassess it, or see whether we can bring anyone in that's better. But yeah, I'm reasonably happy right now with him getting a bit of a go in the first team, because I suppose what was the point of signing him if we weren't going to give him opportunities when one like this has presented himself?
Dom, I wanted to go back quickly to you saying about Mukfadzun being given man of the match. I also saw that Morosi got put in team of the week for somewhere, but it didn't strike me from the highlights, at least, or the extended highlights that I watched, that Southend posed any threat for at least 75 minutes or so. Is that fair, or did they have a better game than was represented on the highlights?
Yeah, surprised their performance really hinged around the 60th minute or so, when they made a double change and went with two up front. They brought on Stephen Humphreys and Simon Cox, and that gave them much more of an emphasis. What was noticeable as well, they were pressing us a lot more for much of the first half when we were playing out from the back. Of course, with these new goal kicks, they don't have to go as long, so we were sort of inviting a little bit of pressure further up the pitch in that way, because we're playing the ball out earlier and closer to our own goal. And in the first half, that was, I suppose, where you worried about us sort of slipping up. There's a few moments where it looked like we were overplaying a little bit. Moroshi was certainly coming off his line quite a lot to pick up possession and get things going. But what became apparent when Southend went with two up top was perhaps there wasn't quite that composure that we thought we had in the first half. I think about 5-10 minutes after Humphreys went on, he noticed that Moroshi was dallying on the ball a little bit and got a little touch on a clearance he made. And I think that seemed to be the signal to Moroshi not to play things a little bit more simple when he had the ball at his feet. Southend's best chances, though it has to be said, came from set-piece situations. They had one which was a completely free header where we switched off from a short corner and had three players who were in an onside position, and we're just very lucky that their centre-back who had the chance didn't seem to quite anticipate it. Humphreys then hit the crossbar with a header, and I think just before that, Moroshi had to make a fairly good save from another set piece. Although I would say that it was, even though it was sort of heading into the top of the goal, it was he had it well covered. It wasn't it was decent reflexes, but nothing particularly outstanding. So yeah, I think the main thing to come out of the performance was there were some decent moments. It was nice to see sort of the energy, nice to see us trying to keep and take care of the ball. But I suppose the two concerns was how many chances did we actually create. We had a couple of efforts from outside the box. There was one chance right after we scored the first goal. It was a nice bit of link-up play again from Mason down on left with Jordan Shipley, put a cross in, seemed to evade Hirula. I think it almost led to an own goal. The keeper managed to get away with it. It fell to Jabello, who sort of had a bit of an air shot at it before it was cleared. But it didn't feel like we were going to score more than that one goal. And once it became apparent that Southend were getting back into the game, things got very nervy, has to be said. Carmel Faction did make did look to be sort of organising and leading things. He was playing on the same side as Fankati Dabo, who didn't have the best of games, certainly positionally. He looked like a particular weak link, and I think Southend had spotted that a little bit. and it did look like towards the final minutes of the game we were about to bring Josh Pascon to come in
Right
for
back or centre back?
yeah, to come in for that position, just because certainly in the air Darrow was really struggling. His positional game does appear to be his weakness, although it wasn't a terrible performance in the sense that you could see how he might be a good player. He's reasonably determined in the tackle, seems to be fairly decent with the ball, but just never really got the opportunity to show his better qualities. And yeah, he looked like he was being pinpointed, and that was causing a lot of sweat down that right flank towards
Of the new
closing stage of
ones,
the game.
who was the most impressive then? Because obviously McFadden got the man of the match, but I heard some mixed reviews of him actually. Some people were saying his passing wasn't actually that great, and Giobello kind of sounded like he could be exciting, but it didn't really seem to get into it as much. From your perspective, who was the shining light from the new guys?
Well, I'm trying to think of who knew played. I suppose the new centre back pairing. It's clear they are a new centre back pairing. There's a couple of moments where it seemed to be that players were challenging for the same ball back there. But I think Rose and McFadden, once they sort of get used to each other's games, that's a pretty good partnership. McFadden, like you said, I bigged up his passing last week, and there's just a couple of passes which were a little bit loose. It almost seemed there was sort of an overeagerness, certainly towards the last stages of the game, to play in that big ball in behind, which wasn't really on, where Bakayoko, Giobello and Fuda were tiring a bit and weren't really chasing things as much, where perhaps a little bit more composure was needed there. But I thought the way he led the defence was pretty pretty impressive. He was heading a lot of set pieces away, which I suppose says a lot about how many set pieces Southend had and how bad seemingly the rest of the team are defending set pieces that all of Southend's chances came from balls into the box like that. But it was a reasonable debut. I didn't think it was man of the match worthy. It was sort of a bit of a Doyle one where where it just felt like someone's gone, leader, let's give him man of the match. Rose, he just looks a confident player with the ball. It wasn't a perfect performance either. There were a few errors in his game, but he does have a good habit of recovering from his errors pretty well. So I was really impressed with that centre back pairing, although do think there's a reasonable chance that a fully fit Dominic Hyam would be able to come into that pairing fairly well. I suppose it's whether you risk disrupting that. Now they've sort of played pre-season together and started the first game, so I suppose, it's what Robin thinks about that. Further forward, Giobello, it wasn't the best game for him. Certainly later on, it did appear that the language issue was a bit of a problem. He just seemed to be sort of unsure of what to do when he wasn't with the ball and sort of needed a bit of a shouting at to then when to cover. He got switched to the left later on, which I think may have been to leave Darbo less exposed defensively. It didn't seem to me that he had a particularly good game, although in fairness, Southend's left back had a really good game himself. Didn't really seem to be able to get past him. I think he's more of a pace merchant than a skill merchant per se. But he did end up with, I say, 2 or 3 chances in the game. There's one moment in the first half where Westbrook tried to pick him out over the top. Later on in the game, Eccles sent him clean through, and he went for the cross instead of the shot. So it's promising enough moments for him. I don't know whether in a front three in a 4-3-3, whether you want someone who is more of a goal threat. He seems someone who wants to stretch the game rather than come inside and get shots away. 2 times I've seen him play does seem a little bit unconvincing in his finishing. So I think he's more of he's more of an impact player than someone who would have sort of week in, week out starting. But I suppose right now necessity dictates that he's starting regularly.
You mentioning the potential language barrier with Jabello, all I can think about is Shipley shouting "Le Manon" at him. But presumably that wasn't the nature of it. Anything else, Dom, from Saturday?
Nothing I can think of.
That feels nice and comprehensive for what I guess is strange all round by the sounds of it. So one being at St Andrews for the first time, but also so many new players, but in a game that didn't seem like a tremendous challenge. Is that fair?
Yeah, I suppose the difficulty with the opening day and the early weeks is sort of just figuring out how good the opposition are. So it's sort of hard to get that excited. It sort of wasn't a performance up there with, say, when we beat Wigan on the opening day with Armstrong, it's out playing 4-2-4 under Moby. It wasn't one of those where you're like, oh my God, we're going to be really good this season. It was one of those where it was like, we got through it, we got the points, and it's going to take a bit of work until we look like a team.
Despite being in my normal abode of Transylvania on Saturday, obviously iFollow wasn't working, so I had to follow it on Twitter. The thing that stood out to me was I think there was maybe a period in the first half of 12 minutes between updates from the club that suggested that the game might not be electric. Yeah. Okay, right. Thanks, Dom. Normally at this point we would be handing right back to you to do Bolton preview, but well, who the fuck knows what's going on there? We don't know who's going to be playing for them. We don't know who is going to be able to watch the game. Neil, have you got any view on what's going on?
All I know is that our club, yet again, are having to defend somebody else. If you look at Twitter, they just don't. It happened on Saturday with iFollow. Clearly not their fault, and you've got everybody coming. Oh, you zoo twats, get this working. And then and now you sort of think, oh, they're back again. They're having to constantly just like basically blame Bolton for this thing, and nobody knows. I mean, haven't they put out a statement saying that the takeover has sort of failed or something like that, or it's been something's gone on anyway in the last few hours, which isn't good. But I really
my
don't.
understanding of things as they've been this week is, first of all, the tickets were due to go on sale on Wednesday morning. Then there was an issue, supposedly at least, around the Bolton Supporters Trust complaining about the price that they were going to be put up for. So they were suspended originally on that basis. Now, in retrospect, you wonder whether that's what happened. But now is that it's been scuppered at the 11th hour because of Bassini, who I think had an interest in buying Bolton but didn't. I'm looking to you again, Dom, here.
So...
and then it's Football Ventures that had been trying to buy it out, and it's Bassini that's scuppered it.
Yeah, so basically, I think back in April, he negotiated with the former owner to buy the club. The takeover had essentially been announced, but there was sort of a bit of delay with that, and then it transpired that he needed to show proof of funds, and he was set a deadline. And despite claiming he does have proof of funds, he missed the deadline, which then basically saw Bolton enter administration. Start of July, they'd announced that Football Ventures was the preferred bidder for the club. There's also an issue as well because attached to the stadium, but a separate business, is the Bolton Whites Hotel, which was seemingly part of the business plan for Football Ventures, and that's under a separate administration process, which ends on Friday, tomorrow, when we're recording this. So there's sort of speculation that sort of waiting to make sure they got the hotel as well as the football club. But it seems also that Bassini claims that he had a exclusivity agreement or something like that with Ken Anderson, who used to own the club, and he's been able to put an injunction on the takeover, seemingly, which is now being contested. So I mean, as I talked to her, it's just an absolute mess. Kay Anderson, their former owner, had been banned as a director before taking over Bolton. Bassini, I think he's been bankrupt 3 times, was the person he agreed to sell the club to. So it just shows the absolute shysters who want to get involved with football clubs.
We say that, but the fit and proper person test stops bad people getting into football, doesn't it?
Well, you had Berry, who was taken over by someone last year who never passed it. So it just shows.
What is it anyway? Does anybody know what it is? Is that
It's
actually a test?
really.
It's not. It's not even about fit and proper, is it? It's about have they got certain bits, some money, all that sort of stuff. Like it's not.
Somebody made a really good point on the Totally Football show, the Totally Football League show this week about the massive problem with it is, I think it was Accrington's owner, is the Andy Harvey, who was saying that the problem is that they put no restrictions on future behaviour. So it's like you say, it kind of says, have you got this now? And then they let people in, but then they don't say, well, you need to behave properly when you're in place. So it's really easy to get in, and then they can do whatever they want when they're in place. As usual, it's the fans that lose out. I feel some sympathy for the Bolton fans, but obviously it's us, that's people that wanted to go to the game, that have been most badly affected. They're the real victims in this. Cov fans who want to go, especially those of us that live in the northwest.
Come on.
I think
it's not many games.
Well, exactly.
This season.
So there's only about 13 away games that I could practically walk to, and this one is in jeopardy. So let's hope we get it on. But all jokes aside, as trite and pointless as it is, feelings go at Bolton fans, because it's just looking at it, you just think it's such a mess. There we go. Right, anything else before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Oh no, actually, one more thing. I always enjoy Coventry City beginning with a C. It's helpful at the beginning of the season, and somehow we won. And we begin with a C, so we're high in the alphabet, and we managed to fall down place in the table. I don't say the first. How has this happened? What sort of magic? I can't believe it. We're the only ones in the top half with red against it, and we bloody won. God, we can't ever get into this top 6.
That's very funny. I didn't realise that. Some strange results around League One, actually, wasn't there? Not that I can think of them now. Was it?
I just said Bolton.
Doncaster?
Doncaster, what did they do? They drew 1-1, Gillingham.
Did they?
I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one I enjoyed was Bolton. Not I hate being mean about them, but like the idea that Ekin was played against like a bunch of kids. It's just like, ooh, big.
I was quite surprised that they didn't lose more heavily. Almost a bit disappointed. Obviously, you don't want, but in terms of, I was sort of hoping that we could go and really fill our boots. But
they had something weird where they had about 60% possession, but only 3 shots, none of which were on goal. Wickham had.
Where were they on?
25.
I was going to say, I like the idea of shots that weren't on goal. Sorry, go on.
Sorry.
Yeah, but it was quite a mad error as well that led to the first goal, where it was basically just a ball whacked over the top by a centre back, and a goalkeeper came steaming out from nowhere for it. By the way, the Bolton centre back who reportedly sort of marks Akinfenwa out of the game, Johan Zuma, his brother is Kurt Zuma.
Ah.
So there you go.
Lovely old job.
Trivia.
DNA. I like it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right.
Couple
Okay.
of
Go on.
I was just going to mention a few other weird results. Obviously, Sunderland drew at home. The big boys. That was a bit of a strange one. And Peterborough gave another typical Peterborough result. You always think they're going to be good, and
I was thinking of, yeah.
They lost at home 3-1. Yeah. Weird.
Who beat them?
Fleetwood.
That was it. It was Fleetwood. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah. And Fleetwood looked very good, in fact, didn't they? Right. I think that's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, Dom. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's good to be on as always.
Neil, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening. Bye.